So today we'll be talking about how we can use some of the latest GS1 standards to help with data exchange in EUDR, Digital Product Passport, or a number of other regulations. My name is Jonathan Ling. I'm the head of product at a company called TrackVision AI. We're a traceability software company. We help businesses leverage these latest GS1 standards to cost effectively meet traceability, quality, and sustainability goals. What are these standards? The three standards we'll be talking about today are first, GS1 Digital Link, which you'll all probably know. What these are the normal GS1 identifiers that we all know, like GTIN or Global Location Number, that are placed in web addresses and often encoded in carriers like QR codes. This allows us to digitally enable every supply chain entity, products, batches, units, containers, pallets, but also parties and locations. This will be very important a little bit later. Another thing that Digital Link can do, it doesn't just link to one web page. You can ask Digital Link to give you back specific information about different topics. This is another very powerful feature that will become useful in the technique that I'll show you today. The second standard that we're very supportive of is version 2 of the EPCIS standard from GS1. This is the best open standard for item or batch level traceability. It can support any supply chain process in any industry, and it provides standard APIs and data definitions for supply chain events or critical tracking events. This means that when two systems connect, there's no additional cost to do data mapping or integration projects. Two systems that are EPCIS compatible can just talk very cheaply. The final standard we're going to talk about is the GS1 Web Vocabulary. You can think of this as a data model for master data, such as products, locations, organizations, or certifications. The data is machine readable, and it's great for web programmers. It uses the same JSON data format that web programmers use to build the internet. It also allows linked data structures so that data can be held on different servers and linked to each other, just like web pages can link to each other from hyperlinks. So today's example, we're going to pretend that we are a plantation company that grows wood. The plantation company is called Southland. It has a party GLN that identifies it as a legal organization. It owns and operates a plantation. This plantation has a global location number to identify it. We will harvest product from this plantation, a batch of product. The class of product is identified with a global trade item number, GTIN, and we'll assign a batch number. And we'll sell this batch of wood to a paper company. Now that paper company would need an origin declaration for the wood to construct their due diligence statement. And some of the words that the regulation uses, such as trade name, description, scientific name of the product, quantity of the relevant product, and where the product was produced, and even the geolocation of all plots of land where the commodities was produced. Now we can use these standards to share all of this data very cheaply. So first of all, we're going to use an EPCIS message as the base format for the origin declaration. And we can do this at batch or item level with a serial number. In this example, we're going to give a batch number to the batch of wood. We harvested the wood from a particular plantation. The plantation has a global location number that forms the where dimension of the EPCIS event. The what is the GTIN and the lot number of the product itself. And then the when dimension is when we harvested it, and the why was for harvesting reasons or commissioning, as EPCIS would say. So Southland could generate this EPCIS event and send it to Printmania, and both of those organizations could use their own system from different vendors and still have interoperability. There's one last problem though. The EPCIS event just has identifiers inside it. It has an identifier for the batch, an identifier for the plantation under the global location number. We need a little bit more data. We need master data for the product. We need master data for the origin location. So where exactly were you? What country are you in? and what was your geographic location. A nice thing about version 2 of EPCIS is that for these identifiers, we can use GS1 digital links directly in that message. GS1 digital link has a secret feature, okay? GS1, normally when you scan a GS1 digital link, and I'll show you this in a second, it would go to a default human readable page, and this is called the default link, okay? But GS1 digital link allows you to append a special parameter onto the URL, and that allows the system to give you back specific data that you're interested in. So if I was building an app, say I was interested in nutritional details in food, it could scan the digital link, add a special link type saying, I'm interested in nutritional data, and it would send me back that. Today, I'm going to add a special parameter saying, I'm interested in the master data of this product or master data of this location, and it'll send me back the data in GS1 Web Vocabulary format. And there's many, many link types to find a specific place. I'll show you that in a second. So to bring that all together, what this means is that Southland can send an EPCIS message to PrintMania, and PrintMania can fill in the blanks by doing essentially API calls with the digital link and getting the data back in GS1 Web Vocabulary format. So let's hop straight into the system and see how easy it would be for Southland to set up all these digital links, set up an EPCIS message, and then we'll actually see it in action from the other side of dynamic queries, okay? So in the system itself, excuse me, we'll start with products. So what Southland will do, it will define the products that it sells, it will define its locations, it will define its organization, and it'll get digital links for everything. So let's begin. At the start, we're going to say, let's define a product for pine logs from a particular variety called radiata. We'll assign a GTIN. As soon as we do that, we'll get a digital link. We'll assign a default redirection, which is just going to our company webpage. So if I was to scan this with my mobile phone or print it and someone else was scanning it, it would go to the default link. And if I copy and paste this URL, this would resolve and go to a human readable web page. But I also want to share machine readable data, structured data with other people's systems. And I can do that. I've set up a special redirection rule that covers link types as well. And now if I take the same thing, I put a special parameter at the end, for example, link type equals GS1 master data, okay? If I run that in my browser, it'll bring back that machine readable data and display it to me. Now, this isn't very understandable for humans, but it's great for machines. This is a product, master data product model that says, well, what's the product name? What's the variant description for the scientific name? What's the brand of this product, and so on and so on, okay? So that's the raw capability. We can do the same thing over and over again. So let's go to locations. I'm going to define a plantation. The plantation will have a global location number. The plantation will have geographic details, and I can even specify a polygon, which is the geographic boundary of my plantation. And I want to say that when I'm harvesting from this location, you can guarantee that the wood came from somewhere in this polygon, yes? Again, I can have a digital link for the location. This can go to some default link, but again, more interestingly, I can also ask for special information. In this example, again, apologies for the technical nature of this message, but I'm just making a point that we can get all the structured master data back for this global location number, including a polygon of the geographic boundary and other interesting information that's required by the law, such as who's the operating organization, what's their address, and so on like that, okay? So we can keep doing that. We can also have a digital link at an organization level. For example, a legal entity, which is the Southland Plantation Company, could have a digital link with the right application identifier. And you can do the same technique. You can share master data at a location level. The final thing that's also interesting, maybe not for this legislation, but The web vocabulary allows you to specify certification data as well. So for example, if I got an FSC certification for my forest management, saying that I'm not doing deforestry activities, we can load that metadata into the system and then again share it electronically. So one other thing you can do, here I've declared that my plantation is associated with this certificate. So what I can now do is I could ask for certification info, which is another type of query that you can do. So GS1 certification info, this is going to tell me in an electronic machine readable way that this particular object has this particular certification. And these are some of the details, such as the identification number, start date, end date, who the auditor was, and other kind of interesting information like that. The final thing we'll do is we'll declare some batches in the system and save it so it's got an EPCIS message under the covers for that. So here we're going to say we produce some pine logs, 4,000 kilograms of logs. We produced it at a specific plantation on a specific day when we harvested it. We get a digital link. This digital link is at batch level. And again, we can redirect and we can do other things for this. Now, we've got all the core capability, but how can PrintMania use this to dynamically populate its own system? This is all open data now. So we've created a tool to show you how this could be used in action. This is not part of our product, it's just a demonstrator. But what we can do is we can plug in a digital link. So perhaps the logs were shipped to PrintMania and they had a QR code and you could scan it. So I could have done a scanning operation here. And then it would do dynamic queries to fetch all the data. So it's going to spin for a while. It's done several queries under the covers and it's discovered dynamically the data that we need to know to do our own work around our due diligence declaration. So it's going to tell me what's the common name of the product, what's its GTIN, what was its brand, what was its lot number, what was its scientific name, where was it manufactured or harvested, what was its location, what was its location name, what country, that's another part of the legislation, and what's the geographic boundary of where it was harvested from, and what is its certifications. How did all this get populated? The answer is by doing that same set of queries on the digital link to get all the information. So one thing I didn't also show you is I could even share the EPCIS message via digital link. By using the link type GS1 traceability, the answer that came back is a real EPCIS message. Again, apologies for the, for the technical nature of this, but all you need to know is this is an EPCIS message, which was the commissioning message for the batch. And it's going to tell me what was the business location where this batch was born. And again, I can take that URL and I can do further queries with it. And that's what my program has done automatically. It took the location URL and it asked for certification info. The system replied back with the certification info and I put that on my user interface or I stored it in my system. And it asks for master data about the product. So what's the functional name, what's the variant, I can use that in my system. It asks for the master data about the location. Again, we saw this before when I just did it live, but we can see the geographic boundary and so on and so on. So what this means is it's a very, very cheap for businesses to publish data and share data without expensive integration exercises. And the other very nice thing is everyone can choose their own system and still have interoperability thanks to the latest GS1 standards. So these kind of standards will be evaluated as part of the working group in D4S, workstream 2. I hope that Digital Link and EPCIS are featured very heavily in that recommendation, and we'll be ready to support that as well. Since I've got a few more minutes, there's one thing that I can also show you. you can use this same technique to do multi-tier traceability. So we saw in the previous presentation the problem of a complex object with many individual components, like a sofa having individual components. So imagine if, for example, a retailer received a chair, they could scan the digital link and communicate directly with the system of the chair manufacturer and fetch dynamically the EPCIS commissioning data for the chair. They could fetch, using the links in that message, master data about the chair, location data about where the chair was manufactured, certifications of the chair, and whether the chair has been recalled. Then they can take each of the links in this message, and they could perform the same operation. And because the planks of wood came from a different manufacturer, that's okay, because you've got that breadcrumb, that link. You can now talk directly to the system of the manufacturer of the plank of wood that went into the chair. And they can tell you about where the plank of wood came, including what lumberyard it came from. And the lumberyard could say, well, the logs that I used came from somewhere else. And now we've drilled down 3 levels here to get all the way back to the source plantation of the wood that was involved in my chair, which is a very, very powerful process, and you can keep doing that as well. So we can prove this in the system as our final demonstration. Here, what we're saying is I've created wood chips. Wood chips are a refined product that took some logs and we chopped it up. So I've produced the wood chips at a chip mill, and I get a different digital link. And now if let's just reset our demonstrator. If I plug in this digital link, now I'll get 2 levels coming back. I'll be able to learn about the wood chips and the wood mill that the wood chips were created in. But I'll be able to drill down and I'll be able to see what were the input ingredients or components or materials that went into that product, essentially multi-tier traceability. And here we see that the wood chips use some pine logs, and then I can click on the pine logs and I can see, oh, the pine logs came from this plantation. So that's a very simple example of how these techniques all link together. It's all thanks to these 3 standards from GS1. I'm very excited about it. I love talking about it. Please contact me to learn more. Just Google trackvision.ai or find me on LinkedIn. I love to talk about it, and I'll talk to also service providers because I'm a big believer in interoperability. So it's very exciting. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan. What a great resume at the end. Do we have any questions in the chat? I don't see any for now, but Svenja, I'm pretty sure you have, again, some questions for us or for Jonathan.
Yes. Yes, so thank you, Jonathan, for your comprehensive presentation or demonstration. It was really, really insightful. At this point, from our GS1 side, of course, we are interested in the GS1 standards and the interoperability of them. So your presentation and demonstration was focused a lot on the EPCIS standard. What actually, if we would use EDI instead of EPCIS, can this method of the master data still be shared or applied in the same way then?
Yes, that's a very good question. So what I had proposed over here is that 2 EPCIS systems could send a message declaring information about the product. You could use an EDI message here. The fundamental identifiers, the GTIN and the lot number, are still present in the EDI message. What you'll need to do is you'll need to construct a digital link from those identifiers. So if we look at what a digital link looks like for a batch, for example, yeah. So a batch is nothing more than a GTIN and a lot number that's placed into a digital link. So we can easily construct the digital link even from the source data that comes from an EPCIS message. The only problem is, how can I find out what the domain is of the resolver that the brand is using? Well, the answer comes from GS1 Global Office. They have a concept of the GS1 Global Resolver. That resolver sits at a URL called id.gs1.org. And you can register with the global office to say, hey, this is my company prefix. Whenever you get a digital link call for my company prefix, I want you to forward it from the global office to the resolver that I'm using, which could be TrackVision, could be another vendor, okay? So that gives you everything you need. Once you've done that, then you can follow the rest of the algorithm, which is getting master data based on the digital links, as long as the source company has some digital links defined for their products and their locations, and they're sharing some of this extra data through the link type framework.
Thank you for the detailed answer, meaning there's also an option to interchange these standards as well. Mm-hmm. Another question would be, in this sense, you talked a lot about digital link. What are the possible different link types, and where are they defined in your case?
Yeah, that's a great point. So if people are wondering, where is the data models defined for web vocabulary, where are the link types defined, you can just go to ref.gs1.org or Google the GS1 Web Vocabulary, and you'll get to a page that looks like this. You can choose to browse all the different data classes. You can also browse code lists, but you can also browse link types. So if I click on this, this is all the link types that GS1 have decided could be useful to the industry. And we can see all of some interesting stuff here. So for example, in the food industry, you might want allergen info. You might want nutritional info, ingredients info, things like that. There's many, many options here. The ones I'm most interested in, because I'm all about traceability, certification info, an EPCIS handle, that would be pretty useful. Traceability, which would be down here somewhere, and T. So traceability, a link to traceability information, and master data we used in today's presentation. So a link to a source of structured master data for the entity, typically for B2B applications. And that's exactly what we're doing, business to business data flows. And also recall is another very interesting one, recall status. So you could continually check, are any products from this product class recalled? They could reply back with EPCIS recall events saying, hey, watch out, these batches are now recalled, and you could take action much, much quicker. So very good site over here. And one last thing that we can look at is some of the master data that I was talking about today. So for example, defining the definition of an organization, you can have all the attributes that you need, such as address, contact details, business address, global location number, and so on. So all the data model is defined openly for anyone to use, anyone to build applications following this standard.
Perfect. Thank you again, Jonathan, for the answer. So pretty accessible information and relevant information in the GS1 world then. So yeah. This was the last question.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.